a bike.
And this is typical for my garage here, folks. We've got two Stasic, the batteries are dead, so now the kids go to work with their Mickey Mouse. These are literally Mickey Mouse toys. Let's see, I think it's on here. Where's his logo? Let's find a Mickey Mouse logo. You got one? Oh yeah, here's a funnel. Here's a funnel. Yeah, it's Mickey Mouse logo. There's a Mickey Mouse funnel to work on these Stasics, which actually don't need any oil, but the batteries are not working. These are my two kids here, and that's Tyler from up the street. And usually when the batteries are charged, they race these Stasics around the house. Now, I don't know if this is okay. I don't know if it's okay to have kids from up the street hanging out in your garage, working on motorcycles, or riding or racing them. Let me make sure my screen is clear here. I don't know if that's okay. But chances are you already know if it's okay or not okay, because you probably already have an opinion on this topic, and that is the topic of this edition of the Weege Show. Wind is coming in. Yeah, I had to switch to my office. Very windy out there. We've had unseasonably mild weather lately throughout the East, which, if you're a global warming believer, you say, yeah, I had to switch to my office, actually. Too windy out there. We've had unseasonably mild weather, which, if you're a person that does not believe in global warming, you're going to say it's unseasonably cool. So what global warming? But if you are a person that does believe in global warming, you're going to say a polar vortex is caused by weather conditions changing, climate change, which results in extremes in either direction. Either way, you probably already have an opinion on that topic, and you're not going to be swayed. And that is the topic for this edition of the Weege Show that is so different, such a special edition, that is not brought to you by Racetech. It is similar to a Steve Mathis Racetech rant that you'd hear on his Pulp Show, but I don't want to drag sponsors into this, and that also includes Racer X, because this episode of the Weege Show is just me, Jason Weigandt, talking, and it is not necessarily the opinions of my bosses or our sponsors or anything like that. Today, I'm not here to talk about racing. I'm here to talk about cognitive bias. Cognitive bias, I'll put it simply, is no matter what happens, you will always believe what you already believed, and you will twist any facts and information to prove what you already thought was right remains right. It's kind of an illogical way of thinking. As I like to say it in layman's terms, you figure out the answer you want first, and then you figure out a way to make sure that that answer appears right. It's really a backwards way of doing things. When you go to the grocery store and you're trying to decide if you want to buy chicken or steak or fish, you're probably weighing all these different factors. A recipe you might want to try. Which one's healthier? Which one's cheaper? What do the other people at home like? And you might choose one week and one the next. If you're picking your fantasy team, something as trivial as that in Motocross and Supercross, you might be a huge fan of Eli Tomac or Kawasaki's or Ken Roczen. Maybe you're a fan of Cooper Webb, whatever it might be. But either way, you're not picking your team based on the riders you like. You're basing your team based on the statistics in front of you and what team would give you the best results. Yes, we are able to change our minds and use research and information back and forth each week, changing what we want to do based on what we think is best. We just don't apply that in the most important things of all. And that's anything that becomes political, which is almost anything outside of the realm, apparently, of sports and grocery shopping. Yeah, there's a checklist on the left side and the right side, and you have to pretty much fit that checklist, and we keep getting further and further entrenched into those. And that's where cognitive bias kicks in. If you already believe something to be right, you're going to take all the information you get and use it as proof that you were right all along. And that brings us to my rant today on this COVID-19 thing. I was naive. I was extremely naive when this thing first started. I talked about we were all in this box together where we didn't know how this started and we didn't know how it was going to end, and we were penned in both medically and economically. It was a situation feeling a squeeze on four sides, the likes of which we had maybe never seen before. And as terrible as that was, I thought there was maybe one silver lining. As our country continues to get more and more polarized, and by the way, maybe the whole world is getting more polarized. I really only know what goes on here in the United States. I thought this could be the thing that breaks us through. Maybe the one silver lining would be that we are all in it together and we start to see things together, and maybe that great divide that just keeps getting more and more wide and divisive and gnarly and angry would finally start to close back in. But here we are 2 months into this thing, and we're right back into our same old trenches. You probably already have something you believe about this coronavirus deal, and whatever information you get at this point will now be used solely to prove the thing you already thought. You already have the answer. Now you're just trying to find information to back up the answer you want. And I understand the temptation to do that. This thing is gnarly. This is going to crush us one way or another. You're picking either medical versus economic. And if you're an entrepreneur and you run a business, heck, if you have a house like mine and you're just trying to pay the mortgage, the economic thing absolutely positively has to be wrestled with. But at the same time, you're dealing with a real medical problem. Now, you might not think it's a real medical problem, or you might think the medical problem is so real, the financial problem doesn't really matter. The point is, if you already had that opinion and all the information you're taking in, you're just using to back up the opinion you already had, you're doing it wrong. That's cognitive bias, and it drives me nuts. Maybe that's why I ended up getting into a pseudo-journalistic field. I'm only covering motorcycle racing. I'm not a real journalist, as I like to say. However, I've always been drawn to one part of this sport, maybe above all others. It is so hard to figure out why someone is faster than someone else. There are so many parts to it, and it's so complex and elaborate, and I've always been drawn to that chase. Why? How? And my opinion can change week after week and back and forth because I think that's the way it's supposed to be. As I get new data and new information, I thought this guy was the best this week, but now maybe it's this guy. This sport's interesting like that because unlike, say, baseball, one pitcher is better than the other because he can throw 10 miles an hour faster, or one football player weighs 50 pounds more than another. We don't have any of those real types of stats to go on. Everything is so much more nuanced. So you're a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I think we need more of that thinking to keep ourselves sane, especially with really difficult topics like this whole coronavirus thing. That's what makes me worry, because 2 months into this, now I'm starting to see people believe there are very simple solutions and very simple causes to why this happened. This is too complex of a topic to have easy answers like that. If you want things to come back economically, you're going to say, we just need herd immunity, or this isn't even real. If you are still worried about this, you're going to say that, don't blow it now, don't open things up now, we're so close. The answer is probably both sides are right and both sides are wrong. When you have something this complex, this difficult, that's going to have this drastic of an impact on our lives, it's either going to ruin our lives financially or it's going to ruin our lives medically. And some of you are watching this saying, no, it's actually not going to ruin anything. Don't be guided by fear. Bottom line is you already have an opinion on this topic. And it would be nice to go to bed at night saying, man, this is really complex, but I figured it out. I figured out the one person that's to blame, or the one thing that's to blame, or the one thing that we just need to do to solve this problem. And why doesn't everyone else see it that way? These people must be complete morons and complete idiots, and then you get more and more angry that they don't see it the way you do because your answer is so obviously obvious. And why doesn't everyone see it that way? It must be those dum-dums over there, or those dum-dums over there. Maybe they're stupid, or maybe they're doing it for political gain, or maybe they're doing it for financial gain. In fact, maybe they're just evil. Maybe they're just trying to make money off of this. Yeah, in fact, maybe it was invented in a lab. Maybe there are solutions that they don't want out yet until they get paid. Maybe they're using it as an elaborate ruse to make their lives great and your lives terrible. That is a horrible way to think. That is a terrible way to think. When I think about all the different companies and things that I've seen in my time, most of the times when things get really screwed up and really go wrong, it's not the result of some incredible mastermind plan. It often happens because it was just people didn't manage the situation right, people couldn't stay on top of it, or the situation was just too difficult to stay on top no matter how well they managed or planned for the situation. Usually things get screwed up because they were screwed up, not because they were a part of some incredible master plan. And by the way, if you believe in these master plans, you're essentially saying that groups that you normally think would be complete idiots, all reporters are dumb, or all politicians are good-for-nothing idiots, now we're suddenly supposed to believe that they are incredible masterminds, the likes of which the world has never seen before, to pull off these elaborate and vast conspiracy theories for political or financial gain? It's unrealistic to think that. Unfortunately, the most realistic answer to this is that the answer is very nuanced, it's a little bit of everything, and it's very hard to solve. And I get scared when I see people getting to the point where they would rather go to bed at night saying, I have a very simple answer and solution, and I'm angry that the other side doesn't see it. We'd rather go to bed thinking that the answer is obvious if it wasn't just for these morons screwing it up. We'd rather go to bed thinking that than, I don't know what the solution is. Or maybe it's a little bit of this or a little bit of that. That's going to take a lot of research. That's going to take a lot of thought. I don't know. I don't know. It's okay to say I don't know, especially when you're wrestling with the most complex problems that the world maybe has ever seen. We are boxed in on all four sides, the likes of which rarely or do not ever happen. This doesn't have easy solutions or easy answers. It's going to hurt one way or another. That's just the way it is. It's not a simple magic wand, magic bullet solution away from happening. Now, I know you should never point out a problem unless you have a solution. I don't have one. All I'm saying in this rant is this. Understand that the reason this hasn't been solved is because it's difficult to solve. Assuming that it's because someone else is evil or stupid just makes us more angry at each other. And that only makes the divide worse, and that only makes the pain of everything else worse. I actually find in these situations more worry over the third thing. Not the medical part, not the financial part, but the what if America decides to rip itself apart from the inside because we're so angry at each other because we can't all see it the same way. Maybe these things are too complex to be seen the same way by everyone. You could respect opinions from all sides because complex things like this have a lot of different information and a lot of nuanced. It's not black and white, folks. It's somewhere in the gray area. And no solution is going to be perfect. So that is my only advice on this. I wish we could go back to the very early days of this where I felt like we were all maybe trying to pull in one direction to find a solution, as opposed to now, where of course we're just in a tug of war, pulling left and right, both sides. I know you're an idiot, I'm right. No, you're the idiot, I'm right. Not only is that probably not going to get us anywhere through this, but it's only going to make us going to nowhere even when this is over. Because if we keep getting further and further apart, as we keep using cognitive bias to make sure that whatever we already thought will always be the right answer, no matter what information comes in front of us, we're never going to get along. And everyone being angry and pointing fingers at each other is only going to exacerbate every other situation from COVID virus and anything else that's going to pop up in the future. Cognitive bias. Look it up. It's an illogical fallacy based on the fact that you essentially already have the answer to any problem on Earth, and then you go find information to back that up. And it's so easy to do these days with 24-hour news outlets that are so obviously pandering to people that already think one way, to social media where you're surrounded by people who probably think like you. That's why you follow them and that's why they follow you. Or you can just look up things to make sure you can enforce what you already thought. Man, that is dangerous. That is dangerous to say I already know the answer. Now let me go find some information to prove myself right. That's not how you would solve these problems normally. If I go to the grocery store and I'm trying to pick between chicken, beef, or fish, I would start looking up which one I should buy. Not, I'm going into the store and knowing that chicken is best, and now I'm going to find some information to prove myself right. But that's what we do on much more complex topics. And it's ripping us apart in ways that even coronavirus and its medical and economic problems can't even do. So just try to get along better. Try not to be as biased in your own thinking. Try to think down the middle and look for a little bit from each side. Because when you have a complex problem like this, that's probably where you'll find the answer. That's my rant. Thanks for watching, and hopefully someday we're back to racing where the topics seem a little more nuanced, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Much more so than the big topics where we seem to entrench ourselves and get angry. And that's not good for anybody.